In this video, I'm going to compare positional and keyword arguments. Let's consider this computer program. We have a function that receives 4 parameters. It adds those parameters up and returns the result of the addition to the call. This is the call to the function, and you can see here we have 4 arguments that are passed to the function, and this line will simply print out the result. As an aside, if you look at the function, you can see here that I'm just adding up what's passed into the function and returning its value. I've chosen this program statement because I'm not much interested in what the function does. I am simply looking at how these arguments are passed to these parameters. You would normally do something here that was more involved than just adding up the numbers, as you can see from this function. So the concentration here is on these arguments and how they are passed to these parameters. Now, this little bit of the code will be responsible for calling the function, and when it does, you will see that the arguments here will be passed to these parameters as shown by the following animation. This argument is the first argument within the brackets, and you can see that that is passed to the first parameter within its brackets. So this 22 ends up here being associated with the A. 14 is the second argument in the brackets, so it is passed to B because it is the second parameter in its brackets, and you can see the 14 is sent to here to be associated with the B. This is the third argument in the bracket, so it goes to the third parameter in the brackets. This is the fourth argument in the brackets, so it goes to the fourth parameter in its brackets. Now, what I've just described is what's referred to as positional arguments, because their position within the call matters. I want the 22 to go to the A, I want the 14 to go to the B, the 8 to go to the C, and the 6 to go to the D. So you have to put them in the correct position within the call. So this is the call, and we can see that these arguments are passed to here. And what the function will do, it'll take those parameters, it'll add them up to 50, and it'll return it to the result, and then this line will print out the result, which you can see here the result is 50. Now remind yourself of this call and these arguments, because in the next program I'm going to leave everything the same apart from the arguments here. I'm going to alter the way in which we pass from the arguments to the parameters. So let's move on to the next program where we can see this is the call, and if you look in the brackets, I have now got A equals 22, B equals 14, C equals 8, and D equals 6. In terms of the values, you can still see I have 22, 14, 8, and 6, which are the values I had in the previous program. But that's not really a detail we need to worry about too much. What you can see I've done different, here, for example, I've said let A equal 22. Now, what this is telling the code is that the 22 has to be passed to this parameter, which is this parameter here. If I come on, just look at this one, this is saying that the D must be assigned the 6. In other words, this D here must be assigned the 6. And when this program executes, the animation is going to show you how the arguments are passed to the parameters. Coincidentally, the parameters A, B, C, and D receive the same values of 22, 14, 8, and 6 as they did for the last program we looked at in this video. But the last program was based on positional passing of the parameters. Here, the position doesn't matter. it's a coincidence that I've put these in alphabetical order. We have to realize that a different mechanism is at play here. This way of passing arguments to the parameters is referred to as keyword arguments. Now, when this program executes, what we're going to have is this calling the function, and you can see that these arguments are passed to here according to the keywords I've used here. Just for completeness, when you run this program, you're going to end up with the following output. The result is 50, which is what you should expect because we're using the same values here. We're just passing them using a different mechanism. Now, what I'd like you to note again is this call and these keyword arguments, and note the order in which these arguments appear, because the next program I'm going to change the order to emphasize it doesn't matter what the order is when you're using keyword arguments. So let's have a look at the program, and you can see here that I've changed the order. I've said D equals 6, B equals 14, A equals 22, and C equals 8. I've put them in a different order. But remember, keyword arguments doesn't depend upon the order. It depends upon the keywords. When the call takes place, the arguments are passed as follows. If we consider the first one where D equals 6, we can see that that is passed to the D. So we pass from the argument D to the parameter D. We then move on to this one, and you can see that the argument B equals 14 results in the parameter B getting that 14. If we move on to the A is assigned 22, the argument with the keyword A equals 22 is passed to the parameter A. Finally, we can see for the last one that the argument C equals 8 results in the parameter C receiving 8. Now, this mechanism is referred to as keyword arguments. And you'll note that the position of the arguments did not matter. It was all based upon these keywords. For completeness, and to show you that keyword arguments work, they do not depend upon position, but they do depend upon the keyword arguments. The output from this program should be the same as the output from the previous two programs, i.e. the result is 50. So let's run the program and see what we get. And you can see, indeed, the result is 50.